The 5th Australian Division Memorial on top of the butte at the Butts New British Cemetery is an iconic site along the Wipers salient. Although the 5th Australian Division was practically wiped out at Fromelles, its memorial stands here, in a beautiful forest south of Zonnebeke. In this video you'll find out more about the Australian involvement in the Battle of Polygon Wood. After the disaster at Fromelles on the 19th of July 1916, the 5th Australian Division was wiped out and had to be taken from the front to recover. It suffered so dearly that it was withdrawn for 6 months. After some action at Bullecourt, the 5th Australian Division was finally set near Zonnebeke in Belgium. The Third Battle of Wipers was in the meantime raging for nearly 2 months, and the Allies came up with yet another large assault to dismantle the German Flandern Stellung 1. The new attack was set for the 26th of September 1917. The attack was to be in 2 stages and would go together with the creeping barrage. The first stage was to capture the German first line in the wood itself. The second part was to capture the Flandern Stellung 1 just east of the wood. To the left of the Australian 5th Division was the Australian 4th. To their left was the British 3rd Division. To the right of the 5th Australian Division was the British 33rd Division. The day before the attack on Polygon Wood, the Germans attacked the British 33rd Division, which was just south of Polygon Wood, endangering the entire plan of the British attack. The German attack was preceded by a gas bombardment which stunned the British. The Germans managed to bite a chunk of the British lines, which caused trouble for the 33rd Division, as a lot of its assets for the following day had to be used in advance. Fortunately for the attackers, German morale was low. During the night, the Allied forces prepared for the battle. They moved to jump off trenches and received rations. On the 4th Australian Division's flank, officers were worried about the Broadseinde Ridge behind the German lines. The ridge had a full view of the Australians' attack grounds. The 4th Australian Division's objectives were as follows. The red line was the first objective. This was a road leading from Zonnebeke to Polygon Wood. The second, or blue line, lay another 300 meters further. This blue line ran from Zonnebeke to Veldhoek. The 4th Australian Division had 2 brigades involved. Each brigade sent 1 battalion to capture the first objective, being the red line, and 2 battalions for the mopping up and the capture of the second line, the blue line. On the left flank of the 4th Division was the 13th Brigade, with the 50th Battalion as a first wave to capture the first line, and the 51st and 49th Battalions to assault the second objective. The 4th Brigade, which was in between the 5th Australian Division and the 13th Brigade, put the 16th Battalion to the first objective, and the 14th and 15th Battalions to the second objective. In Polygon Wood, with the 5th Australian Division, the deployment of the forces was the same as their brother division to the north. They too had 2 attacking brigades. The 14th took the northern part of the woods. The 15th Brigade took the southern part. Just like the 4th Division, 1 battalion was to secure the first red line. The 14th Brigade sent its 53rd Battalion to capture the first line. The 15th Brigade sent out its 59th Battalion. The first line ran practically together with the eastern side of the woods. Then 2 battalions were to press on and capture the second blue objective. This objective ran a bit beyond the Polygon Wood, opposite Jetty Wood. In the 14th Brigade, the 55th and 56th Battalions were to follow the 53rd. And in the 15th Brigade, the 29th and 31st Battalions were to follow the 59th Battalion. Not only the British suffered dearly with the German attacks 1 day prior to the attack on Polygon Wood. The Australian 53rd Battalion was at the Nonneboschen Wood when a hellish German bombardment came raining down on them. The attack hadn't even started and the Australians had already lost 150 men. The 56th Battalion also didn't come unscathed from the German artillery. At 4 AM, a party of men of the HQ company received a direct hit. The battalion's adjutant was knocked out, as well as the battalion's medical officer, none other than Captain G.S. Elliott, brother of Brigadier General Elliott, commander of the 15th Brigade. At 5:50 AM on the 26th of September 1917, the barrage opened up and the British and Australians near Polygon Wood went over the top. On the 4th Australian Brigade flank, the 16th Battalion was facing trouble from some pillboxes slightly to their left, but with the aid of the famous Captain Jacker and his 14th Battalion, the 16th Battalion managed to reach its objective. The farther the men got into no man's land, and the German lines, the thicker the air got with bullets. The creeping barrages proved effective with keeping the heads down of the German defenders, but some Australians got too close behind the barrage and got killed or wounded by their own creeping barrage. By 8 AM, the 2nd Blue Line was captured on the 4th Australian Division's flank. The Blue Line wasn't captured without casualties though. In the ranks of the 14th Battalion, a company commander, Captain Harold Wanless, was killed by a German machine gun on entering the newly conquered trench. Wanless was just 25 when he was killed. The year before, he earned himself the Distinguished Service Order for his outstanding bravery near Bois-Grenier. Many officers could only speak good about him. One officer even stated, "Many good men have I met, but he was the king of them all." The young Wanless was shot in 3 places, and he was buried on the spot, in a crater close to where he fell. His body was never seen again. In the meantime, the 14th Battalion secured their objective and held off several German counterattacks. They endured several heavy German artillery barrages until they were finally relieved 2 days later, on the 28th of September. Everywhere on the Australians' 4th Division's front, the objectives were met, secured and held. The battle was a success. In Polygon Wood, the attack itself went rather well for the 14th Brigade. The Australians quickly managed to outflank the pillboxes in the woods, and the 53rd Battalion was seen swarming them. They moved on, and when they reached the iconic butte in the woods, which housed several dugouts, Germans were seen surrendering all across the butte. The creeping barrage had again proven to be very effective. The right flank of the 5th Australian Division had more trouble in reaching their objectives. The 29th Battalion hadn't yet come up fully, and the 59th Battalion came under fire from the German headquarters at the Polygonerbeek. But with the help of the creeping barrage, the post was eventually captured. It soon became a chaotic mess of 3 battalions intermingled with each other due to a misunderstanding in the orders. Throughout the creeping barrage, the Germans fired machine guns through the clouds of smoke, trying to hit the oncoming Australian infantry. The chaos became even worse when the men of the 59th Battalion had mistaken the racecourse in the woods for their first objective. On the extreme right of the flank, problems were even worse. The 31st Battalion came under severe machine gun fire from their right flank. The right flank had been lost to the Germans the day before, and they could easily see the silhouettes of the Australian soldiers through what was left of Polygon Wood. Men of the 57th and 60th Battalions had to be brought up in order to protect the right flank. In order to protect their right flank, Captain Gibbs and his company from the 31st Battalion swung southward towards the pillboxes near Jerkhouse. A soldier in Gibbs's company was Private Paddy Bugden, a Lewis gunner who would earn himself the Victoria Cross for his actions on the 26th of September. When the attack stalled, Bugden himself led small parties towards the German pillboxes in order to silence the machine guns. On another occasion, a corporal of the company by the name of Alf Thompson had been captured, but Bugden himself rushed forward, shooting one of the Germans and bayoneting the remaining 2. In doing so, he rescued Corporal Thompson. He also saved countless lives by rescuing wounded men under severe fire from the Germans. The brave private was killed 2 days later, on the 28th of September. Jerkhouse proved to be too well defended, as Captain Gibbs's company only managed to get to 100 meters from Jerkhouse. In the process of their attack, Captain Gibbs himself was shot down. Officer after officer fell trying to capture Jerkhouse and its pillboxes. When men of the 229th Reserve Infantry Regiment counterattacked, it was all over for the pinned down Australians. All in all, the first line was captured in time. Due to the organisation of the artillery barrage, the boots on the ground had some time to reorganise their battalions. At 7:30 in the morning, they were to continue the advance to the blue line some 320 metres further. But Lieutenant Colonel Toll of the 31st Battalion was anxious to move up, as his right flank was severely exposed to the German defenders. Quickly, other battalion commanders followed his statement. Eventually, the 14th Brigade attacked their final objective at noon. Reports came in that the 29th Battalion had captured its final objective in less than an hour. In fact, a portion of the 29th Battalion was already on its objective by 9:45 am. When the Germans counterattacked with their 229th Reserve Infantry Regiment, the 29th Battalion arrived on the scene and checked the attack. Once the Germans were seen retreating, several parties of the 29th Battalion dashed forward and captured several bunkers along their second objective. Small groups of men of the 31st Battalion then went forward, cautiously trying to get in touch with the 29th. That way, piece by piece of the second line was being captured by the Australians. To the right flank of the Australian 5th Division was the British 33rd Division. They sent up their 2nd Royal Welsh Fusiliers as a second wave to attack Jerkhouse. After spotting several lines of oncoming Germans, they fell back. The rest of the 33rd Division still had to reorganise from the German counterattack the day before. When the 56th Battalion was being relieved, 2 lieutenant colonels were killed. Commanding the 56th Battalion, Lieutenant Colonel Humphrey Scott was showing Lieutenant Colonel Turnbull, a Gordon Highlander attached to the 20th Battalion Manchester Regiment, around in the new trenches when they were hit by a stray bullet. The 56th Battalion was so devastated with the loss of their beloved commander that they went out towards the front line to bury him. When they found out that the British had already buried him, they left his body near that of the other gallant officers who died that day. The Battle of Polygon Wood was over, and it was a huge success for the Australian and British attackers. All objectives at Polygon Wood itself were met, and at the end of the 26th, the British 33rd Division managed to capture back the lost ground. On the 27th of September, the British 33rd Division managed to secure their objectives, which were set for the previous day. In the period from the 26th of September until the 28th of September, the Australian 4th Division suffered 1,717 casualties. The 5th Australian Division suffered 4,014 casualties. Like most of the time, German casualty numbers are hard to find. I just assume that they are higher than the Allied casualties. This was the AceDestroyer. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Cheers!